Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of SRC University. Uh, the question we're going to answer, one of the questions we're going to answer today is Social Security income really tax-free under the big, beautiful bill that Congress passed? And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Uh, the challenge with the big, beautiful bill is it's big and it's got a lot of stuff in it. 870 pages long. It has features and changes that impact all Americans in many different ways. And today we're going to focus on some of the significant ones that affect seniors. So the solution in anything that comes out of Congress is understand how the bill impacts you. We want to make informed choices to reduce our tax obligations as we go forward. And as you're going to see, this bill touches a lot. If you look at the 10 top features or changes that came out of the big beautiful bill, we're going to walk through some of these. The permanent extension of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act will explain how that impacts us. No tax on tips and overtime. So if you're working and drawing tips or overtime, you don't pay tax on those anymore. Higher standard deductions, which is nice. Infrastructure and energy permitting reform. What do they mean by that? Well, the simple answer is most of the tax credits for energy projects like solar and wind have been eliminated, as have tax credits on electric vehicles. There's a new senior deduction we're going to talk about that runs from 2025 to 2028. Mortgage interest deduction has been reformed. We won't get into that. No tax on new car loan interest. We will explain that. A lot of money was put into border and immigration enforcement. Some very significant Medicare and Medicaid spending cuts are included in this bill. And then last but not least, defense spending. You've probably heard about the Golden Dome, trying to create protection for the United States against outside missile attacks, more spending on national defense. So of the 10 items up on here, there's five of them that I want to talk to you today about. These are ones that affect most senior Americans. And let's start with the permanent extension of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act. In the center of the screen, we've got the 2025 tax brackets. And the way our income system works, our tax system works in the United States, various levels of income are taxed at different rates. So if you look at to the left, 10%, 12%, 22%, to the right, what that says is if you're a married couple, the first $23,850 of taxable income is taxed at 10%. Only amounts above that are taxed at the higher 12% rate. And you can see the ceiling on the 12% tax bracket is $96,950. So if your reported taxable income is $96,950 or less, everything is being taxed at either 10 or 12%. But why is this permanent extension of 2017 tax cuts important? To the left, I show the pre-tax cuts and job acts rates. And you notice that instead of it's 10% on the lowest bracket, but then it's 15% versus now the new ones are 12%, 25% versus 22%, 28% versus 24%. So had Congress not acted, our tax rates after 2025 would have reverted back to the pre-Tax Cuts and Job Act of 2017. We would all be in higher tax brackets. So this is a major change. It's now made these tax cuts permanent until Congress decides they're not permanent. But what does this chart show us? It shows that if you're a married couple and your income is $96,950 prior to the big beautiful bill, you had a $30,000 standard deduction. If you're both over 65 and married, you got an additional $3,200, So add that up to with the 96,950, and what this chart shows that if your gross income was either 65,475 as a single person or 130, 150 as a married couple, all of your income is still in the 12% or 10% tax brackets, very, very low tax brackets. So I want you to let's remember those numbers, 65,000 and 130, because I'm now going to show you not only how extending the tax cuts affects us, we maintain the lower tax brackets, but let's take a look at what happens with higher standard deductions. The big beautiful bill added a $750 standard deduction for single people and a $1,500 additional standard deduction for married couples. So now if we run the numbers, add it all up, instead of 65 and 130, we're up to 66,000 and 131,000, still keeping you in the low 10 and 12% brackets. But that's not the only change that came in. The big beautiful bill has a new standard deduction that only runs from 2025 to 2028. And you'll see now that instead of $2,000 for somebody that's 65 plus, now they get $6,000 if you're single. And if you're married and both over 65, instead of $3,200, you're picking up $12,000 of additional standard deduction. Well, if I add those numbers together, remember originally we had 65,000 for single people was the top of the 12% bracket, and you could earn 130,000 and stay in the 12% bracket as a married couple. Now those numbers are 70,000 and 140,000. So what this means is you can have more income and still stay in the lower bracket. Now, the bill itself didn't change the taxation of Social Security. We did a webinar 2 weeks ago on how Social Security is taxed, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we move forward. But you can go back and listen to that webinar. It was part 1 of 8 tax strategies for keeping taxes low, and one of those is how to get your Social Security income so that it either isn't taxed at all or is taxed at a very low rate. Now you notice on this new phase out or this new senior deduction that there is a phase out or income limit. So if single people report adjusted gross income between 75,000 and 175,000, that $6,000 is gradually phased out. For married couples, the range starts at 150 and goes up to 250,000. Why is this phase out important? Well, we want to maximize the maximum standard deduction. And if you go back to last week's webinar, we talked about different strategies to convert IRA pre-tax 401k dollars into Roth. And this is where income planning is really important as we go through retirement. Income planning allows you not only to create lifetime income that you can't outlive, which is nice. I mean, that gives you peace of mind. It multiplies the value of the funds that you put in or using to create lifetime income. And if you fund income products with pre-tax money, IRA money, eventually that money becomes Roth and becomes tax-free. And where it becomes tax-free, it doesn't impact these tax tables. So it helps you maintain your full senior deduction. It also can reduce taxation on your Social Security, and it can reduce Medicare IRMA taxes. We talked about those 2 weeks ago. You can go back and listen to those webinars. So tax or income planning in retirement is really critical. And the goal is we want to get to more tax-free income so that it doesn't force us into higher tax brackets. Another nice feature, this doesn't show up when you request information on the top 10 changes in the big beautiful bill. This one doesn't show up. It's considered minor. But if you buy a new car in 2025, there is a new tax deduction. If you are paying for that car over time, you're paying interest. And you can now deduct the interest. It's another deduction that can come off of your gross income. And the maximum per year is $10,000. It phases out. Once again, there are upper income limits. So if you're above 100,000 single or 200,000 married filing jointly, this deduction phases out. The loan must have originated after December 31 of 2024. In other words, you had to buy the vehicle this year. And my wife happens to be in this situation. We bought her a new car back in April, and the interest that we're paying on that loan is going to be a deduction, which is kind of nice. The vehicle has to be for personal use, not business or commercial, and it has to be secured by a lien on the vehicle. So you have to be paying for it through a dealership or whatever over time. The qualified vehicle has to weigh less than 14,000 pounds. I don't know what our car weighs. It's got to be way less than 14,000 pounds. And this is important. It has to be final assembly in the United States. And you can verify this by using the VIN number. There's a lookup table that's available at the Social Security website where you can look up your VIN number and verify that the car was actually finally assembled in the United States. And if that's the case, then you include the VIN number with your tax return, and this is an additional deduction that you can claim. Once again, it runs from 2025 through 2028. And the last of the major changes that I want to talk about is one that's going to affect a lot of people. The Big Beautiful Bill had cuts for Medicare programs and for Medicaid. And I want to focus primarily on the Medicare options. This is going to surprise a lot of people, but if you're starting, pretty soon you're going to be getting renewal notices for Medicare Advantage plans for 2026, for Medicare drug plans for 2026. And I can guarantee you one thing, you're going to see higher monthly premiums. Let's start with the Advantage plans. First, let's step back. When you get on Medicare, you have two choices. There is original Medicare that comes with parts A and B from the government. A is your hospital coverage, B is your doctor and lab coverage. That's original Medicare. If you add on a supplement and a drug plan, that's one form of full coverage under original Medicare. The other option is to select a Medicare Advantage plan. When you select an Advantage plan, all of your claims are processed not through the government, but through a private insurance company. And these plans have gotten a lot of notoriety over the last 10 years. They came out in 2006. They've become quite popular, but they're also very expensive to the government. When someone gets on an Advantage plan, the federal government writes a check to the insurance company that's providing the Advantage coverage of, somewhere north of $10,000 a year. And all of the claims are going through that private insurance company. Well, insurance companies don't like spending money. And we started to see some impact on Advantage plans about 2 years ago. If you live in the Central Texas area, you may be aware that major providers like ARA Imaging Services and Texas Orthopedics, they announced they were no longer accepting insurance from a very large insurance company. And we had written supplements with that insurance company with some of our clients, and they called up and said, gosh, Bill, it sounds like they won't accept our insurance coverage anymore. And I said, let's call ARA, let's call Texas Orthopedics. And in both cases, we found out that what those providers are saying is we will no longer accept Advantage plans from that specific insurance provider. Well, add on top of that, two more things that are going to affect Medicare Advantage plans. The first is the Big Beautiful Bill reduces reimbursement 4% starting in 2026. And if you Google some of the large insurance carriers, you'll find that they are starting to exit certain markets because they can't cash flow when the reimbursements are reduced. I think you're also going to see a shrinking of supplemental benefits. I've noticed the last couple of years when you turn on the TV and Joe Namath comes on and is publicizing a Medicare Advantage plan, he often doesn't talk about the plan, but he talks about additional supplemental benefits. Might be vision care, might be dental care, different added benefits. Well, as these insurance companies receive less funding, you're going to start to see a shrinking of these supplemental benefits. The bill also calls for tighter prior authorization rules and expansion of audits. All this adds up to the fact that Medicare Advantage plans more than likely are going to see higher premiums. If the companies get paid less, they're going to have to make that up, and they're going to make it up through higher monthly premiums. There's a second factor that's going to affect Advantage plans. Often they come with drug coverage embedded right into the plan. Well, why are drug plan premiums going up? If you go back to 2 years ago, if you were on a prescription drug plan back 2 years ago, there was no limit on the maximum out-of-pocket you could spend for prescription drugs in a calendar year. Last year, 2024, the Biden administration signed legislation that reduced it to $8,000 maximum out-of-pocket. Sounds like a lot of money, but guess what? If you're on cancer drugs that run $10,000 a month, you hit your deductible the first month. Well, this year, the amount is reduced down to $2,000, which means people on an expensive drug that costs $10,000 a month, within the first week or two of a new year, they hit their maximum out-of-pocket. But when people are paying less for drugs, where's the money coming from to make up the shortfall? And that shortfall could be in a couple of different ways. The drug companies could cover or could reduce the price of their drugs. We haven't seen any drug companies willing to do that. The second way is the insurance plans that cover prescription drugs can raise premiums. And we've already had a number of phone calls, people calling in. We don't sell drug plans in our practice, but I've had a number of clients that call in and go, Bill, you showed me how to use Medicare.gov to find the best, most cost-effective drug plan. Yes. Well, I just got notice my drug plan premiums are going up $50, $60, $80 a month in 2026. Why is that? Well, when the previous administration put in lower out-of-pocket maximums with congressional approval, the drug plans wanted to raise their premiums. Last year, the drug plans were going to raise the average monthly premium for a drug plan from about $40 up to $170 a month. Ouch. President Biden was running for re-election, and he was able to divert funding to the drug companies to make up for that so they didn't increase their premiums. But this year, President Trump hasn't seen fit to offer that same additional reimbursement. So we fully expect that not only will drug plan premiums go up, but because drug coverage is included in many Advantage plans, it's kind of a double impact on the Advantage plans. I think you'll see higher premiums on both. The good news is people on original Medicare with supplements shouldn't see any changes to their coverage. The assignment rates that are paid by original Medicare are maintained. The big beautiful bill didn't make any changes. We're going to do some additional webinars on Medicare coverage in the next couple of weeks, but wanted to cover this. This is an important change. And if the Advantage plan you're on is pulling out of the market that you're in, if they leave the zip code where you live, you have an advantage to move back to original Medicare if you so choose. You're guaranteed issue onto original Medicare and to the supplement of your choice. So if you're in that situation where you're being terminated, give us a call and we can answer questions on this. Another huge change with the big beautiful bill are significant spending cuts for Medicaid programs. We're right now in the middle of a government shutdown, and the Democratic Party is trying to negotiate with the Republican Party to reinstate some of the additional payments that were made under the by the government to keep premiums on the Affordable Care Act low. These were additional payments that were authorized back during COVID, and they run out at the end of this year. And we've had discussions with a number of people that are on group health plans that are hearing that, hey, their premiums are going up significantly in 2026. This is something you need to be aware of, that kind of there's a reckoning that the way the design of the Affordable Care Act, it was underfunded, and to make it affordable, the government was providing supplemental payments to people to keep their premiums low. Those additional payments right now are slated to be cut, and if they are cut, people's premiums are going to go up. So there's a lot of changes coming by way of the big beautiful bill. Some of them are positive. The additional standard deductions, the additional senior deduction, the maintenance of the old tax table, or the tax rates from the last since 2017, those are being sustained. But beyond that, some of these changes are going to impact people in a negative way. Need to know how the impacts are going to affect you. Next week, we're going to do a webinar on what we call the 4 pillars of a safe, secure retirement plan. There's many things, many types of planning you can do for retirement, but there are 4 building blocks that if you do these 4 things, I can assure you, you'll have a safe, secure retirement plan. So want to welcome you back next week for another edition of SRC University. If you have questions, you can always call us at 512-835-0963. So the simple answer is Social Security is not tax-free. You do get a higher standard deduction, and that will reduce tax on your Social Security income. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us today. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.